Great Curtis Blow with basketball as we welcome on Windisch from the Gyro Step podcast. NBA. Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Doing good. We're gonna pot you up here. So we've pulled on a couple of strings this morning. We talked about Dame is hurt now. Great. Multiple injuries. Super. But then we also had the stat about how Rick Carlisle has a worse playoff record, arguably, than even Doc. So I'm like, okay, that's at least hopeful. And then we found out that the hotel situation is under control, even though Doc had nothing to do with it. Butchie, did I miss anything that we've pulled on so far this morning with the Bucks?
Well, yeah, just other the fact that maybe we don't believe in Doc anymore. Maybe he's just coasting, not really, brought in it. But I mean, just sure, yeah. I mean, that's all things that have kind of come up, But
so
good
Ty,
hotels will be taken care of.
Right. So, do you have in your mind a vision about how the Bucks can beat the Pacers, even without Giannis and with Dame not being 100%?
I mean, I think they're going to need Dame to play close to 100%, or certainly at least higher than the level he played against Indiana earlier this season. I think it's going to be very difficult for them to thread the needle of not having Giannis for. In my mind, this clearly isn't source. A couple games. That's where I'm at right now. I'm going to say at least 2 games. I think you got to go out and win game 1, even if you lose game 2. I think that's fine. Like, if you can split games until Giannis comes back, the way he's played against this Pacers team, I mean, he's going to be limited to some extent too, but he's also an alien. He's played through this kind of stuff before. I think you're going to have to at least split games. I think Dame's going to have to be very good. I think Chris Middleton is going to have to take care of the ball. I would prefer if the Bucks set him up in the half court more, because we've seen, he's trying to bring the ball up full court. Teams pressure him. It goes badly. And I don't think this Bucks offense can afford a lot of turnovers. And I think Bobby Portis is going to need to continue being a 20-10 guy, which he has been since Giannis went out. He's had a better second half of the year. He is talked loudly about how people who wanted him traded are stupid, which is, hey, I would too if I was in the NBA, I'm sure. Hey, me too. So,
hey, what's the record? What's the record since All-Star break?
I'm sorry,
not great. It's not great. Listen,
and what's been the difference since All-Star break? Bobby's been kind of scoring more and been more involved, correct?
Yes.
Is there a correlation between the two?
No, because there's been so many guys out. He's had to. He's picking up slack. He's not picking up all the slack.
You know that, Butchie.
That's also true.
This isn't a law. We're not in court. Gosh darn it all.
And finally, the Bucks have to hit threes, man. I mean, Malik Beasley hasn't hit any threes. Pat Connaughton's been good at other things, but it's been ice cold. I mean, you're going to have to score. This Indiana team put up 157 in their regular season finale. You hope they don't do that every game against the Bucks, but I don't anticipate Milwaukee's defense without Giannis holding them sub 100. I think Milwaukee has to score on this team, so you got to knock down threes. You got to get to the rim sometimes too.
Ty, I've talked a lot about defensively. There's one area that I think needs to be better if they're going to win it all. What is defensively? What are your areas?
I mean, I like the way they've played physical around screens. I think that's been good. I just think their one-on-one point of attack defense. I'm interested to hear if that's what you thought too. I mean, I think their rim defense has been the better of their 2 defenses. Brooke Lopez with Giannis out is now probably their best defensive player at anything, him or Pat Bev. But I think Brooke has lost a step from the 2021 year. I mean, he's 35-year-old behemoth. It makes sense. I think he needs some more help. And you've seen some possessions, like especially when Pat Bev is on the perimeter, he's able to stick with guys more and do those rear contests we remember from the Eric Bledsoe days. I think Brooke suddenly looks a lot better. I think the point of attack defenders need to stay at least marginally attached to mostly Halliburton, but all of these Pacers coming from the perimeter. I think that's the biggest thing. You see guys just lose so easily, just get beat on straight line drives. It's really hard to help on that. So I think it's the perimeter defense that needs to step up and be more serious, like we saw against the Thunder a few weeks ago. Pretty much the whole playoff run for them to go far.
Yeah, so my biggest thing, Ty, was transition defense, and then transition defense to me has to be number one. When you're talking about the Pacers scoring 157, majority of those points they're getting are in transition. Milwaukee has to stop that if they're going to have a chance.
100%.
All right, Jay Crowder, is he going to have a factor in this series? Like, I'm still wondering, how does he plan to be deployed? What does Doc think of him? I mean, what do we expect?
They put him on the building. They put him on the building.
They did?
I thought it was Beasley.
I thought Jay was on there. No?
I mean, neither one of them is starting right now, so it's kind of funny either way.
We're putting guys who aren't starting on the building. Oh, that's
because the guy. Yeah.
All the starters are hurt. We don't know if they're going to play.
Yeah, just put all 17 players on the building. Who cares?
Okay. Who needs a bigger series? Your boy Connaughton or Crowder?
Ooh. Probably. I think both of them. Honestly, I think both of them need to have a huge series. I think Crowder is going to be interesting. I actually think the Giannis of it out is not good for anyone on the Bucks, not good for the Bucks at all, period. But the Bucks having more size opportunity in their rotation may actually help Crowder. I think he's been miscast as kind of a 2-3 defender when he's really more of a 3-4 defender. And him sizing the Bucks getting a little smaller and playing Crowder at the 4 more, I think will be good for him. I look at this Indiana team. I think if he's on Halliburton, that's very bad for the Bucks. I think if he's guarding Pascal Siakam, that makes a lot of sense to me as a matchup that might work. So, but offensively, he's going to have to hit some threes. I mean, he's actually probably been one of their best bench shooters lately since Bobby moved to the starting lineup and Giannis has been out. He's going to have to keep knocking those down. Connaughton, I feel like, has done a lot of other things well on offense. I think there's also more inclination to trust him because he's been a playoff riser for years now for the Bucks, whereas Crowder came in late last season and did not have a good impact whatsoever in the disastrous Heat series. So I think Crowder maybe needs it more from the perspective of how everyone around here and us will talk about the players. But I think both of them need to show that they can knock down some outside shots. You know, while Giannis is out, when Giannis is back, we know how important that is. I think they're both a little streaky shooters. They both need to be more on than off, especially early in this series.
All right. Butchie says Pat Bev has got the assignment for Halliburton. Would you agree that that's the best defensive matchup for as long as he can go with his injury?
Yeah, I think so. I think Pat Bev is a maniac. I think you're gonna have to probably tear him off the court, which is a good. I think the right attitude to have this time of year. I think it's gonna be really interesting for me to see who coming off the bench gets that assignment too, because it won't be Pat Bev for however many minutes Halliburton plays per game. It'll be Pat Bev for a lot, and they'll get switches and everything. But I mean the primary defenders. I think Beasley probably gets first crack with the second unit at it. That's how they've used him all year. I don't know how that's going to go. It hasn't gone well historically. I really am intrigued to see when is AJ Green back. Does he get some opportunities? Because we saw some great defensive moments from him on Tyrese Maxey, who I think is even faster than Halliburton. Or does Andre Jackson Jr., if AJ Green is not able to play, does he get any burn or any opportunity to do this? I mean, everyone jokes like, no, it's going to be Gallo instead. Doc loves Gallo, this, that. Gallo plays as a big. This is a small Indiana team. I really would be surprised if we see a lot of Gallo, but I want to see some of those young guys just get a crack at Halliburton if he is, giving Beasley way too many problems on the defensive end.
All right. I want to put good old Brook Lopez up on the block here to take a look at. Butchie, you being a big man, can really comment on this. His numbers this year, he actually played one more game than last year, played 79 games, which is impressive for a fella his age and for a big man. Big men break down, right, Butchie? More than other guys.
They do.
Because of all the issues of being a big man.
You're right.
But his numbers were just sort of sagging in certain categories. Not a precipitous drop-off. Shot a little bit less from three. His percentage was down about a point, but he actually attempted more and made more per game from outside the arc, so that's good. His rebounds were down, though, a board and a half per game. His scoring is down from 16 a game to 12 and a half, and his shooting percentage is down 4.5%, down to 48%. What is Brook Lopez right now as a player?
I think he's just a slightly worse version of the player he was the last 2 years, but I think sometimes it looks worse for him. He is, I think, been kind of a victim of the circumstance of the Bucks. I think their offense, especially the second half of the season, has been very disjointed. And how many possessions is it like nobody wants to shoot, nobody creates an advantage, just throw it back out to Brook to shoot a 30-footer. And people get really frustrated that he shoots so many, but I look at it more of like nothing else is developing. This is the only guy who's like taking a shot in the flow of the offense. And then defensively, as I mentioned earlier, I think his rebounding, his everything is worse. He's getting dragged out of the paint more. They're running different schemes. The defense is much worse around him. You've seen his frustration all year. And his frustration frustrates me sometimes because he's, throwing temper tantrums going down the court, and nobody likes to see that. But also you understand, he's been playing in such a great situation for him under Bud for those 5 years. And I think a lot of it has degraded around him, and it's made his life a lot harder too. I'm not trying to write off. I mean, I think there is some age decline there as well, but I think it looks worse because of what's been around him.
Yeah, I think that's exactly part of it. I think there's a drop off. I also think Bud, what they did defensively covered up a lot of what Brooks' limitations were. We talked about this briefly. The more that I hear Doc talk in the last 2 weeks, I'm believing more and more that he's not bought in completely. Bud talked, you could see the pain in his face. You could see the desire in every conversation. You could see the intensity. As much as Bud had its faults, I never once thought, man, this dude isn't dialed in. All you need to do is look at this dude. He looked exhausted. Doc looks like he just got off the golf course, for crying out loud. He did. That's why I put so am I wrong in thinking that the investment here is just a little different? And I don't like it. I'll be honest. I don't like what I'm seeing from the leader of the team in desperation mode. What he's putting out there, I'm not liking.
I haven't liked the message from much of the team. I mean, I'm getting into it. People over this Malik Beasley thing where he said it's going to be ugly for the Pacers, and they asked him about it.
Yeah.
And
okay,
I don't like it at all.
Set that up fully, Ty, for those who have not heard this story. Go ahead.
So after the fourth time the Pacers beat the Bucks in one regular season in embarrassing fashion, Malik Beasley is on a Bleacher Report stream with Chris Haynes talking. It's like a live video stream. And
this was this week he was on this stream, correct?
No, this was way back. This was soon after the last game, but then they asked him about it again this week. So the reporters basically said, so he said it's going to be ugly if we meet the Pacers in the playoffs for them, right? Basically saying the Bucks will clobber them. And he was asked about it again.
He said that back months ago after they had just lost their fourth game, and he was asked about it again this week. And what did he say this week? He
kind of looked down a little bit, said, oh yeah, I meant what I said, it's going to be ugly for them. Maybe it won't be, who knows, but we think it's going to be ugly for them. We're going to beat them, basically. It's going to be bad. Our defense is going to beat them.
So he sort of melted it down a bit.
I think so.
I don't think that's not a double down. Would you agree, Butchie? That's not a double down.
Probably not double down, lightened it up.
Okay, so he lightened it up. So I got no problem with that. But a lot of people on Buck's Twitter are mad because they say, no, you're not the one to be talking.
Exactly. He is writing a check that other guys have to cash.
Right. It's 34 or 0, or just shut your mouth and know your role, right?
Yeah, listen, Bees can say whatever he wants, but I also just don't like that he said it after they lost 4 out of 5 games to this team and got ran off the court in some of them. Say it before, and then if you lose, that's fine. I think you trash talk after when you know you might not see them again all year, and you end up seeing them again, and the intensity is not the same when you are about to see them again and you're saying it. I didn't like that at all. I don't like a lot of the messaging coming from the Bucks. I don't like Dame every time they lose an ugly game saying, playoffs, game slows down, it's going to be different. We're not going to get shellacked like this. Maybe just don't get shellacked so often in the first place. Then that goes to Doc too. Doc is I'm taking notes. I'm seeing things I don't like. Why are you taking notes? Just fix it.
Travel, change it. Yeah.
You're the guy. You're the one who has the most job security in the building outside of Giannis, frankly, because you just got the new contract. You're not going to be going. You see something that needs to be changed, go and change it. You think Giannis shouldn't play in the game when now he's got this calf injury, pull him out of the game. You control the rotation. So all these things of just all I hear is talk. I don't see enough action. So that's why I'm a little nervous about this playoff run. So I agree, Butch. I don't like anything about the vibe right now, starting from Doc all the way down. I'm still hoping, of course, that everything goes well and they just snap into a serious mode on the court, but I hate that idea.
Shellac is a resin secreted by a female lac bug from the trees and forests of India and Thailand. It is often used to put a varnish on furniture. It is somewhat yellowish in nature. How and why it ever got used as a term in sports I have no idea. Does
Good question.
anyone?
But I love it.
No.
But that's what shellac is.
No, yeah.
So, there you go.
Shellacking,
That's one to
pounding it,
learn on,
yeah.
kids. Hey, you'll learn a lot listening to Ty's podcast, the Gyro Step podcast. Look for it wherever you get your podcasts. Bucks in 6. That's the mantra. We're going to buy it, believe it, and figure out a way to get it done because losing is not an option. Thank you, Ty.
Thank you, guys.